tip of my tongue. There's a sarcasm waiting for you. I'm willing to trade my soul for a bit of your charm. There's no way.
Hello and welcome here back to the Great Lakes Truck Series here for Talladega Super Speedway race number 10. I'm joined in the booth, of course, by Seth Cole. Seth, how are we doing today?
Doing great, I'll tell you what. I mean, what a wild card race to start the playoffs at. The 2.66 mile super speedway of Talladega. I mean, this is going to be crazy.
It is going to be crazy. We also have it looks like we have an in-race reporter for today's race. Gavin Fitzgerald, Kyle and Seth up in the booth. You got me?
Yes, sir. I got you loud and clear.
Gavin. I know you're not in the playoffs, but are you looking forward to Talladega here today or not?
Oh, absolutely. You know, I love this track. I love the plate races. You know, we had pretty good success at the plate tracks at Daytona. I know we ran up front most of the night and got caught up in the end there a little bit, but 100% excited for tonight. You know, lots of teamwork. I know we've got RJ and Josh in the playoffs, so definitely going to look around to help them out tonight. But other than that, it's a wild card race. Anything can happen. Anyone can win it, and I'm super excited.
Yeah, there's two different types of people going into Talladega, Daytona. Super excited and people that are just dreading going there. But my strategy usually when it comes to a track like this is just kind of hang out at the back and buy my time and keep my car clean. Are you kind of going for the same strategy, or are you going to be one of those people that are fighting up in the front all day?
I mean, personally, I feel like I've had more success battling up front. I know, obviously, you know, sitting at the back has its advantages, and I know, me personally, I know that I would rather go up front, race for the win, than sit in the back. It's more exciting that way. It's not like I have a lot to race for right now, just got to sit above the top 25, and as of right now, we're doing pretty good at that. But you know, I think personally, sometimes it seems to me that almost being up front is more safe than being out back. It really just depends who's around you, where your friends are, stuff like that. There's always a lot of thought going into these races and pit strategy, and yeah, there's always a lot, but being up front is definitely the best course of action, I think, for our team today.
You're going to be starting in the center of the action, starting in 23rd, but anything you want to say to the people before we let you go green here today, man?
I'd just like to thank Giant Tiger, as always, for being on the truck this week. Been here since start of the season. You know, Spectrum Racing, Eric, RJ, Ashton, Josh, the whole team. We've had a great season. Definitely have not had the results we've wanted, but I think that this team's set. We're ready to rock and roll, and we're ready to go get a W tonight. I'd also, sorry, Kyle, I'd also like to wish my dad a early happy birthday. It is his birthday tomorrow. So happy birthday, Dad. I don't know if you're watching or not, but if you are, happy birthday.
Happy birthday to Mr. Fitzgerald, and we wish you luck here, Gavin. We hope to speak to you later, but if it keeps clean, good luck out there, man.
All right, absolutely. Thank you.
This is Gavin Fitzgerald, driver, the number 14 Giant Tiger machine. We're little over a lap and a half almost from going green flag racing. A very interesting front row here. We have Seth, we have Tyrell Baker, and Eric Kepf here on the front row, but they both ran the exact same lap time on my screen at least, but a very close effort for the pole. Eric Kepf was saying he came that close to getting his first career pole. Very close for Kepf.
Yeah, it must have gone down to the maybe 10th or 100th of a thousandth for these guys as to who got that pole position. But, you know, you got Tyrell Baker up here, Eric Kempf, who was actually, I believe, the first driver outside of the playoffs. So both of these drivers, much like we heard just moments ago from Gavin Fitzgerald, they feel like they don't have a whole lot that they have to race for here tonight outside of that checkered flag. They can kind of go 110%, bring home the trophy or bring home the steering wheel. That's going to make things interesting in terms of the strategy for these playoff contenders, because they want to keep these trucks in one piece. They want to get the maximum points to advance into the next round of the playoffs. At the same time, they don't want to get caught up in somebody's mess that has nothing to lose.
We're watching out for those playoff guys and making sure they can keep it clean and get to the end of this thing, just to give y'all, who some of y'all might not know who is in the playoffs for the Great Lakes Truck Series. I'm going to list those guys right now. We got Hunter Madalinas, Josh Cottle, Christopher Heller, Elliot Henderson, Zachary Henry, Nathan Jump, Jake Miller, Lewis Woodall, Brandon Burkuski, Michael Sensi, Austin Moore, and R.J. Williams are going to be competing for the Season 6 Great Lakes Truck Series Championship. And do you have a favorite necessarily going into this stuff?
Oh gosh, I mean, Gavin said it best. It's a wild card type scenario. You know, there's going to be a lot of alliances that'll take place, but once you get to 10 to go, 5 to go, that white flag, it's every man for himself. No, I'm going to go for a little bit of magic here. We saw the magic start in the season opener super speedway race at Daytona. Saw Lewis Woodall be able to pick up that victory. I think the Cinderella story can happen again. He had a great qualifying effort, going to start on the inside of row 8 in the 15th position. Keep an eye on that number 13 Pepsi truck. He might be able to sweep the super speedways here this season.
I'm gonna do you one better. My pick to win this race. He just missed out on the playoffs. We've seen him improve throughout the season and just keep on trucking. And that's the driver of that number 1 machine, Brett Kincott. He's my pick. I think Brett Kincott's gonna go to victory lane today here at Talladega. He's done well all season, and I think this could really feel good for him heading into the last couple races. Maybe he can even steal another win or a couple of top 5s before we head out for season 6. Here we come out of turns 3 and 4, by the way.
It's a good pick there, and if you're looking at drivers in terms of the strategy here in qualifying, your highest playoff contender, Nathan Jump, going to start in 4th. Austin Moore will start all the way back in 30th, and the rest of the contenders sprinkled all the way through this field.
Here they come. And of course, it's not the start-finish line isn't right here in the middle of the tri-oval like Daytona. It's outside of the tri-oval. We're going to go green here momentarily as the iRacing pace car is pulled down pit road, and Tyrell Baker, aka TCB, leads him to the restart zone, and the green flag is in the air for the 025 here at Talladega.
75 laps of racing. These drivers are going to have to pace themselves in the early going. There's going to be that anxiousness, those pre-race jitters to take it double wide and 3 wide, but again, these drivers don't have any mulligans, no faster pairs. You tear that truck up, you're done for the night, so you want to kind of play it a little calmly here, I think, in the early stages.
Yeah, that's usually my strategy at a track like Talladega, Daytona, even Atlanta at this point. I usually just like take it really easy, just hang out and buy my time until the end of the race. But we were talking about that with Gavin. We're going to see drivers doing completely different strategies. Some drivers hanging out at the back, and then some drivers like Tyrell Baker are going to try to keep themselves at the front all race long.
Keep himself at the front is right. He blocked 2 lanes down the back straightaway there. Jumped to the top to block Tyler McClellan. That middle line, then back down to the bottom. But that top line, DJ Stagner, he's got momentum through the tri-oval. He's going to clear for the top spot. Looks like by maybe about a full truck length, he'll lead the first lap.
DJ Stagner comes through and leads lap number 1 of 75 laps here at Talladega Super Speedway. Right behind him, he has Tyrell Baker. Leading the high side is Tyler McClellan. But right when I say that, Baker going to move up to the high side. Does Stagner go with him? No, he'll stay down on the bottom side and get a push from Zachary Henry. But McClellan already on 2 laps. He seems like he might be one of the best, if not the best pusher out there here early.
You talked about your strategy, run at the back. I think a couple of drivers just adopted that strategy, saw them dive below the double yellow line in the back straightaway, losing positions on purpose. Looked like one of those with the 3 of Jordan Gonzalez, also the, I believe, Ashton Lawson machine in the 24, and Hunter Brittle in the 10. Kind of getting out of Dodge, feeling that the eye of the storm is starting to brew up here inside of the top 20.
Kep is now leading the high side in that 63 machine. I know he wants to go out there and snag a win before this season's up. He was the first driver to miss out on the playoffs. Kep, a driver you would usually expect to see in the playoffs purely because of his consistency. But he's out there trophy hunting today on that high side. Right behind him, you have Brandon Burkuski and that Jeff Gordon, number 25.
Left-hander Nathan Jump diving to the inside, dropping to the back. And to your point there, oh, we got a spinner! I believe that was Woodall. I just saw there in the forefront of my screen, heading down towards the inside of turn 3. No caution.
And they're wrecking. There's a secondary accident after that incident going into 3 and 4. A couple other guys got around, and I'm sorry, Seth, but I don't think your pick aged very well there.
No, not at all.
As well, I think. I think Woodall was involved as well. I mean, not Woodall. Kincott was involved as well, I think. Oh, man.
And R.J. Williams, I believe, might have gotten a piece of it. He was in the vicinity, at least. I also saw Mike Tellier was there, Steven Sims. So we had a good half dozen trucks that were all stopped there in the middle of 3 and 4.
And this is exactly why we don't do pre-race picks, ladies and gentlemen.
Exactly.
This is why we don't do pre-race picks. But we're going to take a look at the replay here and see what happened to the number 13 Pepsi Max machine of Lewis Woodall coming down the back straightaway. Here you see him in the middle and just gets a big bump from a white car behind him. I couldn't make out who that was. Then he went right across the driver underneath him's nose and got another hit and went into the inside wall of that 13 machine. Here you see him just, and yeah, that was our Daytona winner. And there's the secondary incident right there. You saw on the corner of your screen for a moment pass by. But a lot of damage to that number 13 machine early.
Yeah, it was an uneven bump on the right rear quarter panel there for Lewis Woodall, courtesy of the 19 of Marshall Harris. And as he went down the track, he kind of got a double doink there, courtesy of the 90 of Cameron Perez. And that just kept his momentum, shooting him towards the inside wall, heading to 3.
We saw Mike Tellier go flying into the outside wall there. And there's my pick, King Cod. He stops. So King Cod did avoid the incident, but he stopped right there on the track. Very smart move. We're gonna try to take another look at the incident. You're gonna look back at the number 2 of Matthew Durr, and you see the 47 of Tellier come down and just didn't know that Matthew Durr was there. Very heavy incident for that 47 machine. Gets on his side and slides down the track.
I'm not certain who it was. I know the 32 definitely got the 47 of Tellier. I couldn't tell who that second driver was. It might have been the 61 of Chris White, who clobbered Mike Tellier and sent him up and over.
You are going to get an onboard look at the number 47 of Mike Tellier as he goes through this incident. And you see him try to come down to the low side just a little bit to avoid that incident, and then gets on his side, on his roof a little bit, and slides right down to the bottom of the racetrack. A lot of damage to that number 47 machine here early. A lot of damaged race cars in that incident. Looks like Bob Kenny had a decent amount of damage to that 01 machine as well.
Yeah, a lot of heavy impacts right there, so more than likely we may see a couple of DNFs only 5 laps into this race. Some drivers will obviously try and make some repairs, get back out there, log laps, and try and get some points, because, you know, we talk about the playoff contenders, but you've also got some big names that missed out on making the playoffs just outside of there. Eric Kempf, as we mentioned, was on a tremendous momentum roll down the latter half of this regular season. Ashton Lawson there as well, missed out on the playoffs. Jackson Sims, Matthew Rodriguez, Brett Kincott. These drivers still want to be able to have the bragging rights that they finished out the season the highest in points of those that didn't make it into the playoffs. They still want to end off the playoffs on a high note, and they want to try and find as many victory lanes as they can in the process before the season comes to an end. So, you know, they still have something to race for. They still have people that they're going to be competing against, and that can all culminate here today as well.
Yeah, it's going to be a difficult race for some of these guys. We're going to see which drivers are able to survive the day. We already have one decent incident right there. Took out a couple of vehicles, and we'll have to see what drivers are able to survive the day. That's usually how Daytona and Talladega end up turning out. It ends up being survival of the fittest. We'll end up having a calm point in the race, usually for maybe 20 or 30 laps, and we usually won't get any incidents. But then at the very end, it's really just every man for themselves at a track like Talladega and Daytona. The end of these races get very intense, Seth.
Mike Tellier is going to be the first retiree in the 37th position. And with that being said, 37 trucks took the green flag here tonight. There is so much movement for position that takes place, not even at the completion of the laps here at Talladega, but during each one of these laps. I mean, we can have as many as 3, 4, 5 lead changes before we come back around to the start-finish line. So a lot of positions change place and a lot of points change place. I think we need to stress to everybody that, yeah, we end up having 10 drivers coming into this race hunting for the championship. In the playoffs, all 10 of those drivers are only separated by 3 points. Look at the case of Lewis Woodall getting this early damage, more than likely going to be off the pace for the remainder of this race. Right now, going to be returning to the track, last truck in the lead lap in the 34th position. This is going to put him in a huge hole here for the playoffs in trying to gain the points that he loses back in the upcoming races.
Yeah, Woodall is unfortunately going to be in a big, difficult hole to get out of, because he already came into this race as one of the underdogs, one of the big underdogs coming into this. He got into the playoffs because of his win at Daytona and came into the playoffs as a huge underdog, and a lot of people are expecting him to at least do pretty well here and snag a good amount of points. But with him having all that damage early, it's going to be really difficult for him to compete for the championship any longer.
This early caution, Kyle, has kind of opened the door for drivers to play a little bit of fuel strategy. Our top 10 did not come down pit road, but everybody from 11th place on down here on this restart, they came down pit road. Some took on tires, some did fuel only, so we've got some varying strategies here less than 10 laps in.
Tires aren't really going to make any difference at a track like Talladega or Daytona, but gas is something we can definitely talk about if we end up having these long green flag runs. And I think a lot of these drivers are at the front are expecting more cautions, but if we get these long green flag runs, those drivers that just took gas could really be sitting pretty when it comes to strategy, not when it just comes to making it sit on fuel, but they'll have a bigger group of drivers to work with and get more speed. So we'll have to see how that turns out when it comes to these drivers' strategies. Not really one of the tracks you tend to see a lot of different strategies, but we'll see how they work out. Kep is going to lead him to the green flag on the inside. On his outside is Tyler McClellan. And right behind him, you have Shane Neiswanger in the number 49. On the outside of him, you have the 19 of Marshall Harris, who was involved in that last incident. And the green flag is out for the 63 of Kep. A good start from the front three, who separate themselves from row 3 on back, who just did not go.
And how quickly things can change. We mentioned Austin Moore rolled off the grid in the 30th position. There you see him right there. First truck inside line in that double wide formation between himself and Marshall Harris. He's now, because of this strategy of staying out under that early caution, picked up 25 spots since the start of this race.
Big mover early, but that high side is trying to get it going. Marshall Harris leading the high side with a huge push from Elliott Henderson down the back straightaway going into 3 and 4. Harris is going to move out of the way, and Henderson's going to go down to the middle. I don't know if Harris felt very comfortable with that push that he got from Henderson and decided to move out of line.
Maybe the 19 got a little bit loose there going into the corner and slipped up the racetrack, opening up the door for Elliott Henderson. Look behind Henderson there, Aiden DuPont trying to keep that truck straight as it weaves back and forth. And that's the way you got to keep the line moving, is to keep your truck steady, keep the bumpers locked up. That's how you get the forward momentum. Movement like that out of the 00 can really break the momentum of that draft.
And Hunter Brittle sees that, and he's trying to go on the high side of Aiden DuPont coming out of turns 1 and 2, and that's going to put DuPont into the sucker hole. But Henderson is sticking with them for now in the middle line, and we have that high side is very indecisive on where and who wants to go where.
At about 3-4 trucks formulating that top side. Now it's gone down to 2 as a couple of drivers ditch from the top down to the middle. They're pretty well formed there on that inside line, though. About 5-6 trucks. And in the middle of that, Austin Moore. And there's Hunter Madalinas, who's going to go down below the yellow line. I don't think he got forced down there. I don't even think he got a bump. I think he might be trying to drop to the lead portion of this pack. But normally we don't see drivers drop below the double yellow line out of turn 4. So that was a little bit sketchy there, but it worked.
Madalena's coming into this race as the points leader, dropping back a little bit right there. But it's crazy up here at the front still. Eric Kep leading the field with a push from Shane Neiswanger on the inside, leading that middle line. You have the 37 of Henderson, and DuPont is still right behind him, and Brittle continues to try to start that third line, that very top side, but doesn't seem like very many people want to go with him at the moment. Currently, he only has the 87 of Kyle Hall up there with him.
Yeah, they've got some momentum right now, though. Even though they are 2 trucks, they've been able to kind of hold steady in that 3-wide position for, I think that's 7th going on, but they have not been able to gain any other friends. Now there's a second pack back there being led by Matthew Rodriguez, who's just latched onto the tail end of this lead group. Madalena's just behind him. If these guys get enough momentum, they may jump up there and help add the numbers to the third lane.
Some good racing going on here at the front. Kep, Henderson keep on going back and forth between the inside and the middle line. Brittle's finally about to fall behind this middle line of drivers. Does he decide to duck in back behind him and get back in line, or does he decide to keep on pushing that high side and trying to get people with him? Let's see. Looks like they're going to get somebody else up there. Looks like Rodriguez, actually. We were just talking about him. Matthew Rodriguez is going to jump up to the high side and join them, and that's going to help Brittle, and Brittle's getting some momentum, actually, coming through 3 and 4 here on the high side, getting a lot of momentum.
Got momentum. They just can't seem to keep the bumpers lined up to keep that momentum moving forward. It seems like as soon as they gain some progress, they lose it the following set of corners. That inside line there, though, with Kemp and Shane Neiswanger, they have had a nice tight draft. McClellan there as well. And how about our in-race reporter, Gavin Fitzgerald? He said, I'm more comfortable when I'm up there racing at the front. That's where I feel safer. And he's now cracked into the top 10.
Fitzgerald has joined the conversation here at the front of the field. He's right underneath the number 025 of Tyrell Baker, aka TCB. Brittle going to get a huge run down the back straightaway. Kyle Hall giving a great push on that high side with only 2 people up there. You'd think more people would be down to go up there by seeing how much speed Brittle has up there.
I think that this is also going to open up the door of drivers maybe adapting that strategy of the 2-truck tandem. And to your point, Brittle and Hall, they've been able to hold their own for a moment there down the back straightaway. Hall almost had Brittle clear for the race lead. The one thing these drivers are going to have to worry about is if they are the pusher, they're going to have to keep an eye on their water temps, because I would assume that you can only stay locked up to someone's back bumper like that for only a certain period of time before you start to see your water temps rise.
One thing I've been keeping an eye on too, because we are in the playoffs now, so every point matters. I've been watching Henderson. Henderson's just been so close to edging out Kep. He just hasn't quite been able to lead a lap in that number 37 machine. Kep has just been barely in front of him by a nose each time coming across the start finish.
I think he's got him cleared, though. He does into turn 3, and a big reason for that was the inside line lost a member. Tyler McClellan kind of backed out, so that middle line was able to keep their momentum down the back stretch, and Henderson's going to lead him out of turn 4.
DuPont is going to have the run out of the corner with a big push from Baker. Tyrell Baker giving the push to the 00 of DuPont in that middle lane.
And Henderson will not lead another lap. Man, I thought that time he was going to have the lap lead, but nope. 00 says no. That's my lap lead right there.
Here comes Ashton Lawson, the season 4 champ on this high side, in that number 24 Steve Park sort of throwback. Ashton Lawson known for really driving all these throwback classic sort of paint schemes on that very high side, now is leading the field in the number 24 with a great push from Hunter Brittle, and they're going to get a little loose getting into the corner.
3 wide up in this lead pack, a lot of movement, and I have seen so many drivers kind of back out of the situation down the backstretch. The most recent, the guy that led a good portion of the early stages of this race, the 63 of Eric Kemp. He says, all right, I've got my laps led. Now I'm going to drop back and kind of see what happens.
Kemp immediately dropped back after leading a couple laps. Looks like Brittle got that lap. He's getting a great push from Bob Kenny. He's going to jump down to the middle lane. Here comes the 01, and it's 3 wide for the race lead with Ashton Lawson on the bottom. Getting a good push from Aiden DuPont as the 01 of Bob Kenny still holds the middle line. He's getting a push from Baker, and DuPont's going to drop back, it looks like. That's going to hurt Lawson as Lawson... Oh! Kenny! Almost a wreck at the front of the field.
Was not clear. You definitely could see contact. The left front of Robert Kenny's 01 to the right rear of Ashton Lawson's 24, and you're right, that nearly could have been the big one starting up at the front of the field. You brought up the possibility of green flag pit stops, and that's not exactly something that we have to kind of take for granted, because last time these drivers were at a super speedway at Daytona, we had more drivers in the field and only 4 cautions waived in the span of 80 laps. So there is every possibility pit road could play its part into the outcome of this race. And remember, there were 10 drivers that didn't come to pit road under our only caution up to this point. So they would be shorter on fuel than everybody else. They would be in the realm of drivers that would love to see a caution get themselves back on the same strategy as everyone else.
That's why you saw a lot of those drivers coming down pit road, because a lot of these drivers were expecting, or hoping at least, on a long green flag run to get green flag pit stops. And those drivers that stayed out, your front 10 that ended up staying out, they were really hoping on a caution. So far, this field is single filed out for the most part, except for the direct front of the field, who continue to battle it out very hard here at the front.
One of the wildcard aspects of super speedway racing when you're watching these drivers in practice is the speeds you see during the practice session don't always correlate to just how fast of a truck drivers necessarily have. That third truck on the inside line, the 96 of Justin Mons, he was at the top of the leaderboard in practice, but he followed it up, qualifying all the way back in the 28th spot as Gavin Fitzgerald. Heck of a save there as he nearly went around off the nose of Mons out of turn 2.
Yeah, looks like Fitzgerald tried to clear himself on the bottom. He just wasn't quite clear of the number 96 of Justin Mons, who ended up having to back off a little bit. And Fitzgerald able to save it and able to keep on going, still up here in the top 5, top 10, battling it out.
Kyle, I know that obviously a lot of drivers, when it comes to super speedways, they'll have a spotter watching what's going on for them, giving them information. Of course, iRacing provides a spotter as well as Elliot Henderson. Big bump there from Baker, nearly got out of shape through the trioval, but I mean, just how much information does the iRacing spotter give you? How much spotting do you have to do yourself as the driver with this type of racing?
I feel like you really have to kind of be almost your own spotter, and it's not even just about necessarily being next to somebody. You also have to predict their next move, because you have drivers constantly going from left to right, right to left. It's like driving on a very busy highway. You just kind of have to watch out and figure out what these guys are going to do. You have to predict their next move and make sure that y'all don't collide.
Kelly Henderson, after his moment through the trioval, says, okay, I'm done. I got the lap led, and he's going to drop back to around the 8th position, turning the race lead over to the 24 of Ashton Lawson. Something I've been noticing with these guys when they drop down to the inside on the back straightaway is it's a very bumpy apron there. It's not smooth. You actually almost had all 4 tires come off the ground at certain points there. Very rough surface, so it's not as easy as it looks to drop to the back.
Yeah, especially on that back straightaway. I think it's right there, maybe 3/4, maybe 2/3 down the back straightaway. There's a huge hump underneath that yellow line. When you like maybe 2/3 past, you see Ashton Lawson down there, right around there. There is a huge hump. Right when you saw Lawson come up, that was probably right before the big hump there on the bottom of the track.
The third truck on the outside line there, Matthew Rodriguez in the 57, another of the half-dozen drivers we talked about coming tonight that just barely missed out on advancing into the playoffs last week. And we talked with him pre-race, much like Gavin Fitzgerald, our in-race reporter, said, you know, I'm out here with nothing to lose. I see a checkered flag in front of me. I won. I'm going to do what I can to get it.
Most people are just trophy hunting in the field. That's where you see some drivers you don't usually see necessarily every week. You have Baker, you have Kenny, drivers that usually aren't here every week out here trophy hunting. But then you have drivers like Gavin Fitzgerald, like Matthew Rodriguez, like Ashton Lawson, who just came just short of making the playoffs and maybe even feel like they deserve to be in the playoffs and want to go out there and prove something and get to victory lane.
We've only had 1 caution so far that took place in the first 5 laps of this race. So to bring everybody up to speed of the after effects of that wreck, looks like Lewis Woodall, our Daytona winner, he is going to be the first playoff driver out of the race. Right now he scored in 35th. He will soon lose that spot to Ross Brockman, who has returned to the racetrack, albeit 11 laps down. Josh Cottle is the only driver running 1 lap down in the 34th position. He's obviously hoping for a caution to get him the free pass, get back in the lead lap. Chris White and Mike Tellier also out of the race. They will finish in 37th and 38th as things look a little bit more settled down out here at the front now. Not the 3 wide, 3-4 rows deep that we saw. Kind of a settled out double wide formation in a battle for third, the top 2 single files. So I think these guys may now have finally gotten all that adrenaline out of their system. They're settling into the long green flag run, realizing green flag pit stops might be on the horizon.
I think it's a mixture of that, and the drivers that really wanted to get up there and lead a lap or two have already gotten up there and led a lap, so they've fallen back, and it's calmed down quite a bit. But right when I say that, Baker jumps to the high side. I'm not surprised about that. Baker seems like he really wants to be up at the front, and Fitzgerald throws the block on Baker, but now he gives up the inside lane. I don't know if that comes down into him. Kenny came down and hit both Baker and Fitzgerald. I don't know how they didn't wreck.
That was a tremendous save by both drivers. I think Rodriguez gave just a little bit of an uneven bump to Robert Kenny. That shot him down to the passenger side door of Gavin Fitzgerald, and you're right. Great job by both drivers to gather it back up. That, again, could have very easily been our second caution of the day. We've dodged a couple of bullets here as now Tyrell Baker chops the nose of DJ Stagner. Fitzgerald saw that coming. He's going to keep the lead through 3 and 4, but you'd think these guys were blocking like it was the last lap.
Some hard racing going on up here at the front, and I expect Baker to maybe jump back out and try to get past Fitzgerald once again, but he doesn't really have any help behind him at the moment. They've kind of just single filed out throughout the whole field. You see a slight battle back there with Rodriguez, Hall, and Brittle, it looks like, and I think Kenny as well, but it's keeping pretty calm right now.
And again, I get the mentality of nothing to lose, everything to gain by trying to win this race, but with the old adage, in order to finish first, you must first finish. I kind of question the aggressive blocking we're seeing go on here because just the slightest movement too late, you can find yourself hooked off of somebody's nose into the outside wall, and all the track position you gained, all the laps you led could be for naught, and we're not even halfway through this race.
Yeah, not even halfway. And I think I'm hearing talks on the radio. It sounds like Fitzgerald's coming down, actually. Everybody all of a sudden decided to come down pit road. I didn't hear a word about it, and then all of a sudden everybody's coming down.
Oh my gosh, a couple of drivers nearly out of shape there. Austin Moore, Henderson, and Madelinas almost made contact, but we got about almost 20 drivers that came down this time, and they all were able to police themselves safely onto pit road. No incidents from what I could see, so nice job everybody getting onto pit lane there for the first group. I would assume that that's going to draw this group that stayed out to pit road within the next lap or two.
This is going to end up turning this race, I'm thinking, into a two-stop strategy for these drivers. They're pitting now, and they're going to have to pit one more time with around 25 laps remaining. So a two-stop strategy is going to be the strategy for this race at Talladega. And it sounds like Rodriguez is coming down this time by with the rest of the field, actually.
Rodriguez gets hard on the brakes. Yeah, about a half dozen, 7 drivers coming down pit road this time, and they're all going to make it onto pit road safely as well. That's going to turn the lead over to Brandon Barkuski in the 25, a playoff contender. They're going to get a lap led, very important. But one thing that I kind of have to wonder with some of these drivers too, yes, they made it safely onto pit lane without incident with each other. Did they get those trucks slowed down to pit road speed? Because the last thing you want to do is get a speeding penalty here. Had this thing go into a long green flag run, more than likely you're going to get swallowed up by the lead pack and lose a lap under green flag conditions.
Yeah, you just can't afford any sort of penalty. And I'm looking at Cottle, and Cottle's still on pit road in that 32 machine. He's just now pulling off of pit road. Josh Cottle, playoff contender.
Like 2511 kind of took a page out of the Joe Gibbs Racing book. They all kind of dropped to the back there in the early going, and all 4 of them, the 25, the 3, the 12, and the 11, lined up nose to tail here, just kind of logging laps. They'll be on pit road probably, I would say, within the next 3 or 4 laps, but I like this strategy because there's 3 of them right there, the 25 of Barkuski, the 12 of Henry, and the 11 of Heller, who are all playoff contenders. So we knew the alliances were going to be taking place with the teammates here today. We're seeing it culminate with these 4.
Yeah, I like the alliance they have here. The only thing I'm concerned about is once all those drivers that just came down pit road get together and put down laps, I'm curious, because I feel like they'd probably put down a little quicker lap times than these 25-11 drivers. And you also see R.J. Williams out here with a small group of drivers as well. Looks like Foz now, Jump, and Cameron Perez all back here.
So you've got 5 playoff contenders right there that are staying out in these 2 respective groups, Williams and Jump being the other 2 in this second pack, and I believe they're hitting pit road now.
It sounds like they're hitting pit road, and there you see Foz now barely keeps it on the track. He's won at Daytona before in the Great Lakes Cup Series, but he has won at a super speedway, so definitely a driver to keep an eye out for, but almost went into the grass there.
And as we're following the drivers that have already pit, when we eventually have those 4 25-11 drivers hit pit lane, it looks like Hunter Madelinas may cycle out to the top position. He's got Shane Neiswanger behind him. Top side, you've got Elliott Henderson with the defending champion of the series, Jake Miller. I mean, what's got to be going through the mind of a driver that's trying to defend their championship title when you've got Talladega as the first playoff race on the schedule?
I think Jake's main concern, because Jake's a fantastic race car driver, I think his main concern here is just to get out of Talladega with some points and without too much damage. If he gets a top 15, top 20 here today at Talladega, I bet he's pretty happy with that.
Next week, these drivers go to a road course at Watkins Glen, then we're mile-and-a-half racing at Kentucky. We know that he's very good when it comes to the mile-and-a-half racetracks. He's usually a top 10 driver when it comes to the road courses, so I think you're right. I think it's survive here today at Talladega and then start accumulating the points at tracks that he'll have a little bit more confidence at.
I said I was going to keep an eye on these lap times, and I'm actually surprised these 25-11 drivers are actually putting down quicker lap times than this pack back here. So that makes it very interesting if these drivers would demand, and here they are actually making their pit stops. I'm interested to see how far, if at all, how far in front of them they're able to be. Are they going to get in front of these drivers? Are they going to be in front by a couple of seconds? We'll have to see. But Heller overshot his box, it looked like, in the 11. He had to back up. And he might not be able to stay with his teammates unless they lag back a little bit.
Now, going to your point there about them having faster lap times, there are two things that played into their favor in that regard. Number one was the fact that they had a very tight draft with being single file. They weren't side by side with each other, they weren't side drafting, so that wasn't hindering their straightaway speed. The other thing I think that also worked out in their favor was the fact that they didn't have to navigate any type of traffic like a lot of these other drivers did. They were able to basically just have 4 of them. They knew where the specific points were they were going to run through the corners. They were able to not have to half throttle or lift to avoid running each other over. So they were able to keep their speed, if not consistent with the lead pack, a little bit faster. Now, to your point, though, it will be interesting to see if they'll be able to keep pace with these guys or not. It looks like that's not going to be the case, as I believe they've dropped back now outside of the top 15 or so. I think 18th through 21st is where they're going to cycle to.
They just weren't able to snag onto the back of this pack. You saw it on your screens. You saw this pack go flying past those 25-11 drivers right when they were getting past the start-finish line. I guess Heller and those drivers from 25-11 just took a little bit longer than expected to pick up those speed times. But they were getting some pretty good speed times right before they came down pit lane. But like you mentioned, they're all the way back in 18th now, around 6 seconds behind this front pack. This front pack is composed of, it looks to be 17 drivers at the moment.
And you saw there down the back straightaway, playoff contender Josh Cottle, many laps down now, 2 laps down as a matter of fact there, and damaged off the pace. The day did not start out well for him, and much like Lewis Woodall, that's going to be another playoff contender that's going to be a little bit behind the 8 ball. Also, I remember that RJ Williams and Nathan Jump, they were in that second group that stayed out. These green flag pit stops did not help their strategy. RJ Williams back in 30th, Nathan Jump back in 31st. So we could have ourselves 4 or 5 drivers, depending on what happens here in the final 45 laps. They'll be heading into Watkins Glen, really needing to kind of be on the road to recovery with a lot of points lost today at Dega.
A lot of drivers here are already hoping for caution. Getting close to halfway, around a third of the way through this race, a little past a third of the way through this race, and a lot of these drivers are kind of hoping on a caution at this point. A lot of drivers have lost touch with this front pack, including the 25-11 group, including RJ Williams group that you were talking about, Seth. And those drivers have a lot of speed, and they're going to need a caution to catch back up to this group of drivers, because they don't get a caution, slowly but surely they're going to be cutting this front pack down. It's currently at 17, but if they have another set of green flag pit stops, this front group might shrink down to 10, 12 drivers. So this could get very interesting and very separated throughout the field very quickly here.
Certainly could. Now, obviously, you can see the playoff blue banners above the windshield of the playoff contenders, as opposed to the default black banners for the drivers that are not battling for the championship. And there's a good number of them right here at the front of the field. You've got Henderson and Madelinas on the inside. You've got Miller and Moore on the top side. I also see that 92 of Michael Sensi just there, that 4th truck on the outside line creeping into the picture. So you've got some drivers up here that are trying to take the opportunity to get the max points here today as far as playoff contenders with a victory.
Michael Sensi is definitely a driver I've been interested in this season. He didn't make the playoffs last season, but I want to say he made the playoffs in season 4. Michael Sensi started off the season very consistent in season 4, and ended up making the playoffs. Driver that number 92 machine, but this season he's just been very quiet, just been kind of under the radar all season, but consistently getting top 10, top 15 runs week in and week out, and that's how he got himself into the playoffs, is purely by points. One of the few guys that got themselves in by purely points. So a very impressive season from Sensi.
Austin Moore going to go to the lead. And yeah, as far as Michael Sensi too, just to give an idea of how under the radar he was, you pointed out the top 15s. People would think, if you run top 15 week after week, you're not going to have a shot of making it into the playoffs. But really, as long as you try and get the best finish possible, you are aiding yourself in pointing your way into the postseason. Coming into this race, only 2 finishes inside the top 5, only 4 finishes inside the top 10 in 9 races. Now, normally one wouldn't think that those kind of stats are going to get you into the playoffs, but when you also consider the fact that those 4 top 10s that he had, you consider that maybe about 6 or 7 of those starts he finished up inside the top 15, they're important. Those top 15 finishes are just as important as a top 10 or a top 5 can be.
Every point matters, every finish matters, and Sensi's done a really good job of just keeping his truck clean, keeping it out of trouble for the most part, and just being out there competing. Oh my bad for the technical difficulties here. Looks like iRacing has froze on our end. We're gonna enter the race back, but I'm currently in the server and able to watch the race, so I'm kind of gonna do some radio commentary, I guess, here for a moment while we don't have the video. But Tyrell Baker still up here leading the field. Battle is on for second right now at the moment. Looks like on the high side, Sensi is now leading the high side with McClellan right in behind him, and he's trying to take the lead from Baker right now on that high lane. Baker's still leading the inside. He's going to jump down to the inside and throws a big block on Baker. A great block from Sensi. Sensi now leads the bottom lane and leads the top side to McClellan, who has help from Matthew Durr.
And now you got McClellan and Durr on that top line. They've also picked up Brent Kingcott in the 1. Now Baker jumps up to the top side to try and stop that momentum. That splits them 3 wide. Kingcott and Gavin Fitzgerald, they're going to go up to the outside safer barrier. We're going 3 wide for the second position. Sensi and Baker for the lead at the start-finish line.
3 wide at the front of the field. Kingcott leads the high side. McClellan leading the middle. Baker leading the inside. Right when I say that, Baker jumps to the middle lane. That will give the inside lead to the number 92 of Sensi. Sensi back in the lead on the inside lane with Austin Moore's help on the bottom. And Kingcott trying to take the lead on that very top side in the number 1. He's going to jump all the way down to the bottom. Cut across 2 lanes of traffic to the race lead. And you have your video back. Congratulations.
Kingcott now on that inside line. Fitzgerald, who helped push him to the lead, now on the top side. He's getting a big push from Tyrell Baker in the 0.25. Gavin Fitzgerald, our in-race reporter. Oh, look at this. Going to have to try and block a crossover, but couldn't do it. Baker with a nice move to the start-finish line. Will it be enough to lead the lap? I think it might have been. Man, that was close.
Looks like Fitzgerald actually came across the line first right there, and as they're 3 wide here at the front of the field, Stagner now leading that high side, trying to get some help from Lawson, but they've calmed down behind him a little bit. I think these drivers saw how aggressive some of these drivers were getting here and wanted to really calm down and take it easy.
TJ Stagner's been an advocate for that third line for the last 3 or 4 laps. He's even been running up there on the top side by himself. Now he's picked up Ashton Lawson. Matthew Rodriguez with a run might be jumping up there to that third lane as well. Stagner trying to get that number 64 to the race lead. He's 3 wide for second with McClellan in the middle and Kingcott on the bottom. Still side by side, 2 wide for the lead. Fitzgerald versus Baker, and now Stagner's got a big push here through the tri-oval to the start-finish line. He might be able to get the lead here into 1 and 2.
Battle. Baker on the bottom still. Fitzgerald still in the middle. Stagner still on the high side. These 3 will not give up at the front, but Baker throws the block on Fitzgerald, goes to the middle lane. Throws the ball.
Contact!
Kingcott and Fitzgerald, they almost wrecked to the inside. And they keep it straight and they keep on going.
Under normal circumstances, the 14 should have been spun out. I don't know how he and Kingcott were able to keep those trucks pointed in the right direction. Man, we avoided near disaster, but I am seeing some left side damage on that giant Tiger machine. I don't know if that's going to affect him aerodynamically here, if that's going to affect his straightaway speed. We'll have to wait and see. It might just be visible cosmetic damage.
We'll have to see. We'll definitely see if that damage affects him if he gets up into the race lead, but it's single filed out because of that incident. McClellan on the high side all by himself, but everybody else on the bottom of this racetrack led by the number 24 of Ashton Lawson, Season 4 champ, looking to snag a victory here after missing out on the playoffs.
I have to chuckle. There is nothing that will stop double wide and 3 wide at a super speedway as a near wreck. It's like it shakes everybody to their senses and they realize, oh wait, that's right, we're trying to survive this race, and you suddenly see them get back to single file. Now you see Tyrell Baker, though, jump back up to the top side. That'll give these drivers confidence to try and make the moves once again. I'll tell you one thing I've been noticing, though. Once these guys get double wide and 3 wide, there's a lot of air movement that's going on, and there's a lot of movement out of these trucks. These trucks do not look very steady when they're in 3 wide situations, which is why I think we've had a lot of these near moments.
It seems like those trucks get a little uncomfortable with all that dirty air, and 3 wide, 3 deep just seems to really upset these vehicles. I'm looking for pit stops here soon, around maybe 10 laps, something, as Lawson tries to throw the block on Baker, but he's going to end up getting put in the sucker hole by Stagner. He's going to fall back through the middle. These drivers are around 10 laps away from the final pit stop.
Yeah, to your point, usually it looks like about 20 to 25 laps is when these drivers would be expected to pit on this run, which means that based off calculations, they would be able to make it the rest of the way if they made that one green flag pit stop and went green to the end. DJ Stagner's coming to pit road all by his lonesome. Now, this is normally something you do not want to do at a super speedway. You want to come to pit road with friends. You want to leave with friends so that way you have the best speed possible when getting up to speed to merge with the lead pack. Not certain about this strategy on the 64.
I don't think it was a strategy. It looked like Stagner may have exited the event, maybe had something happen and had to exit the event. Stagner has left the racetrack at the number 64 machine, and the front pack continues on with the lead now held by Tyler McClellan, the driver of that number 95, and getting pushed by a driver we haven't mentioned all day, Ryan Potter, who seems to always come out for these super speedway races and perform.
Ryan Potter, very well-versed super speedway racer, and kind of proving that here with the fact that we're just now seeing him up at the front. He's been keeping his nose clean, slowly, methodically working his way from the top 15 to the top 10 to now the top 5, and trying to push Tyler McClellan to the top position. Now, DJ Stagner still sits on pit road. He is still in the server. One thing I'm possibly wondering about him, there was a moment off of turn 2 a couple of laps ago where he made a 3 wide move but had his left sides below the double yellow line. I don't know if that would have been considered an illegal advancing your position or not. He might have been called to pit road to serve a penalty under green. Not exactly certain what it all led the 64 to come to pit lane, but that could be a possibility.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure why the 64 came to pit lane, but I don't think it is because of a black flag penalty for that move you're saying he had pulled. I don't think that would be a black flag penalty underneath normal circumstances. We'll have to maybe figure that out at a later time. King Cott now leading the high side in that one machine. He almost spun it around a couple minutes ago. And Lawson going to jump up to the high side, try to get on the high side of King Cott, getting a push from Fitzgerald.
Yeah, I don't know, Kyle. Maybe the commentator's curse is me with Woodall out of the race. Brett's still up here fighting inside of the top 5. Was actually trying to take the race lead there moments ago. Still in the thick of this thing.
Well, that's why I wasn't talking about him, Seth, and now he's talking.
Oh,
Hey.
boy.
Got money riding on King Cott. You can owe me money if you don't win this race, Seth.
Ah, well, wouldn't be the first time.
And McClellan still holds the lead. Potter giving a push. They're just keeping in a single file line for now, as these drivers know they're approaching those last pit stops here within the next few laps. And Rodriguez is going to come down all by himself. And King Cott, King Cott did a caution sort of fake down pit road. Very interesting from King Cott. Looked like he kind of wanted to go down, but it was a little too late for him. He's going to fall back to the second group of drivers who have been catching the front group. I haven't really noticed it until now, but they've been catching this front group. They were a little over 6 seconds back of the front group, and now they're almost 4 seconds back. So we could have a big pack.
I have never seen a driver do the kind of move that King Cott just did there at Daytona or Talladega, where they kind of fake pit and then the last minute pull the truck back up on the track, clearing that commitment cone. Now, the one thing I will say, though, that did not exactly work out in King Cott's favor, because he did have to lift and he almost lost touch with the lead pack, which is now coming to pit lane. Everybody's on pit road.
Except for those 25-11 guys.
Oh!
Ooh, Potter in the inside wall very hard. Oh,
A lot
man.
of damage on that left front.
And the number 6 of Jackson Sims had to stop on pit road to get to his pit box, and he actually ended up missing it because of it.
And I think I just saw...
Derby as well, and Sensi. Sensi and Dur both missed their box by a bunch.
Yeah, I think that was Michael Sensi I
And
saw.
Patti.
He hit the inside wall. He's got damage now. Does the 92.
And this is why it's tough when you're pitting with this many drivers on pit road. Sometimes it's hard to get to your box. Sometimes you're going to get contact. There's a lot of things that could happen on pit lane that are out of your control. And we saw it right there. A lot of drivers missed their pit boxes. A lot of drivers got damage from going into the inside wall. I'm curious if any of these drivers maybe even got a speeding penalty underneath this pit stop.
I would not be surprised. We had them fanned out 3 and 4 wide coming to pit lane. There's just so much that can distract you when you're trying to do air traffic control to the commitment line. And so to your point, someone may have overstepped in terms of pit road speed. We'll have to wait and see if anybody ended up getting tagged by the pit road police. You also got to wonder about some of those drivers we saw either miss their pit stalls or make contact. Potter had a lot of damage on the left front. Sensi had damage on the left front. Did they spend extra time on pit lane to get that damage repaired, have those trucks aerodynamically sound? That's obviously going to lose them track position and positions in the running order.
RJ Williams, Nathan Jump, amongst others, just came down pit lane. Now we're waiting on the 2511 drivers to come down. Here they come, actually. 2511 is coming down pit lane right now. Here they come. And here comes Heller, Barkuski, Gonzalez, and Henry. It looks like Kyle Hall has joined the 2511 group of drivers here to come down pit lane for potentially the final pit stop of the day.
A group of 5 going to complete the second cycle of green flag pit stops. And now, if indeed these drivers can make it the rest of the way on what they've got in the tank, the aggression is going to ramp up, because now you're not setting yourself up position-wise for the upcoming green flag pit stop. You're setting yourself up for the final 30 laps of this race. In essence, you're setting yourself up for the white flag lap. You want to be up as close to the front as you possibly can.
That's exactly what you want to do. And it looked like maybe Marshall Harris had went around. I just saw him pull back onto the racetrack. And yeah, it's exactly what happened when he was pulling out of pit lane. He gassed it and spun it to the inside wall. Got a feel for the 19 of Harris. They're side by side down there, you saw.
Harris is going to lose a lap as a result. You saw the 2511 trucks coming back out onto the racetrack. Looks like they're going to cycle somewhere outside the top 10, but just inside of the top 20. And one interesting point of note, just latched on to the tail end of this lead pack now, you see the 60 of Ryan Potter. They did not spend any time repairing that left front, and he hit it a ton in that inside wall when he was on the brakes coming down to that commitment line. So it looks like at least if he's in the draft, that truck is okay. It would be interesting to see with that left front damage, if he ends up being the leader of a line, would that speed still be there or not?
Yeah, I think that was the best option for Potter, was not to get any of those repairs. Hope that we maybe get a caution here in a few laps, and then he can come down and get those repairs. But if he came down and got those repairs with all these drivers on the lead lap with the 2 packs, he would have fallen down to at least 20th place if he decided to get even any sort of repairs.
Like maybe only one driver may have been tagged by the speeding police. That would be the 57 of Matthew Rodriguez. Had a long extended stay in his stall and his return to the track a lap down in the 28th position. But it looks like everybody else was able to get on and off pit road without receiving a penalty. Several drivers, though, that were running up towards the front prior to the green flag pit stop have now kind of fallen back. One of them, most notably, playoff contender Michael Sensi, now back in the 21st position. He's kind of back in, we'll call it pack number 3. It's a trio of drivers with Matthew Durr and Steven Sims over 13.5 seconds behind the race leaders. So a tough break there for him, and officially Josh Cottle is out of the race of 2 playoff drivers back behind the wall here with 28 laps to go.
I was talking about that when it came to Matthew Durr, Michael Sensi, and Jackson Sims. When they were on pit road, all 3 of them overshot their box. Sensi and Durr because they either missed it or whatever, but Sims, he couldn't get over. He had one of those first boxes on pit lane, and you saw everybody come down pit lane 3 wide. Sims was just unable to get to his box and had to drive past him and then back up into it. So all those drivers lost a lot of time on pit lane because of them not being able to get into their boxes properly.
So now the mind games begin here. You got a couple of teammates intermingled in this lead group. You've also got some drivers that don't have any teammates and might have to form alliances with the other drivers that may not have teammates. You've only got, what, 9 trucks, I believe 10 trucks up in this lead pack. So do they just try to single file it out, ride, and settle it amongst themselves in the closing stages? We'll have to wait and see what the strategy is for these guys, because there's still the possibility that second pack, third pack, fourth pack, drivers that are a lap down, maybe get a free pass position, take a wave around. There's still every opportunity if a caution comes out that the landscape of this race could change.
I think the best strategy probably for this front group is to get into a single file line and work together for the time being. Are they going to do that? Probably not. But I think that's the best strategy because you have that second group of drivers who are around 4 seconds back, and it's the same group pretty much. You have the top 10 here, and then you have 11th through 19th in pack number 2. So if those drivers line up and these drivers do not, that second group will eventually catch the front group.
And I think that second group just now figured out who they want to lead the line. Tyler McClellan in the 95 appears to be designated the driver to try and tow this second pack up to the lead group. But while they were trying to figure that out, they lost about half a second to that first pack. They're now running 5.3 seconds back, and the lap times aren't really showing any advantage to the second group either. Last time by, they were 0.3 of a second slower. The time before that, they were 0.4 of a second slower. So they are not making any gains right now. As the laps tick away, they are more and more going to be hoping on a caution to be their saving grace and get them back up there in the conversation for this win.
They just need that front pack to continue to do what they're doing and just continue to battle it out. And if they continue to battle it out, it's only just going to get more intense up there. And now with McClellan leading this front pack, I think they can maybe make up some time. That driver, the number 95, has been fast all race long, and he has Bob Kenny right behind him. And Kenny's been a really good pusher throughout the night.
Also mention what's at stake for 3 drivers up in this lead pack if they're able to take the checkered flag here today. Or actually 4 drivers, I should say. You've got Madalinas, Henderson, Moore, and Miller. If any one of these 4 drivers go to victory lane here today, they go into Watkins Glen. They go into Kentucky knowing they're already advancing into the round of 8 starting at New Hampshire. So what a load off the mind of any one of these 4 drivers it would be to know you've automatically got that locked in position into the next round.
I think one driver that'll be really trying to get that, where I was talking about him earlier, was Jake Miller. I think he's overall just trying to get a top 15, top 20. But if he has, now, caution! This is really going to that back group of
Kenny.
drivers. Oh, McClellan, you got Kenny.
Jordan Gonzalez.
Oh, man, you hate to see it for Jordan Gonzalez, 25-11 driver making an appearance this week. And Gonzalez with a hard hit. And McClellan's been up at the front pretty much most of the race. That 95 machine has shown a lot of speed. But this is going to make it interesting. We're right here. These drivers can make it on fuel the rest of the way. I'm interested to see if maybe anybody decides to even come down, take tires, maybe re-strategize some things.
Well, remember that McClellan and Kenny, they were leading that second group. I'm almost wondering if they were trying too hard to push each other. We'll find out here in a moment. Jordan Gonzalez's day appears to be done. He was smoking, leaving the scene of the accident. McClellan's actually already come to pit road and made the left-hand turn to the garage. Ashton Lawson got a piece of this too, Kyle.
Now take a look at this incident here. Here you see Kenny's just giving a fantastic push to McClellan, but pushing him a little too hard. I don't think I've seen a spin like that. It kind of just looked like after Kenny gave him a bump to McClellan, McClellan's back bumper just kind of grabbed his front bumper with both hands and just threw him to the side. Very interesting accident here. We're going to have to take another look at it here.
Even more interesting was the spin the 0-1 had afterwards. I mean, that thing just snapped around.
That's what I'm saying. It kind of just looked like when he got into McClellan's bumper and almost spun out McClellan, McClellan's back bumper just kind of grabbed on to the front end of Kenny and just kind of threw him to the side. A very interesting accident. I'm going to take another look at it here. You're going to see Kenny giving a push to McClellan right here coming out of 4, and watch his bumper. Watch the bumper just kind of grab his bumper and take him with him to the side.
Really, really odd spin there. And then for Jordan Gonzalez, you saw him kind of come down from the left side of the screen into a Robert Kenny, or actually McClellan, as the drivers were migrating up the track to try and avoid the wreck. I don't know if there was contact, but Zachary Henry and Jordan Gonzalez went way up into the outside safer barrier. Henry was able to keep going, but Gonzalez's truck just pinged off of that outside wall straight down the racetrack and hard into the 95 of Tyler McClellan. So tough break there, as it was looking like the strategy was working out pretty well for 25-11. They've now lost one of their running mates, and they were actually, all four of those drivers were in the vicinity of that wreck as well. So they very nearly had all four of their drivers swept up in the second yellow flag of the day.
I said this earlier on in the race. I'm surprised we got that long of a green flag run, but that's usually how these Great Lakes super speedways turn out. The first couple of laps, it's a little crazy, and they're trying to figure things out. There'll usually be a caution or two at the beginning, and then we'll get a 30 to 40 lap gap of just green flag racing. That's what we got today, and then here at the end, another caution. And do cautions breed cautions here at the end, Seth?
Oh, absolutely. We're entering into the 20 laps to go margin. We've already mentioned it at the top of the program that there's a number of drivers coming to this race with the mentality that they have nothing to lose. Now this caution breathes life into about 75% of the field that weren't up in that lead pack. Absolutely, the aggression is going to ramp up. We're going to see the caution a time or two before this thing is over. I actually think we could maybe see this thing go into a couple of overtimes as well.
Yeah, this could get very intense, very quick here at Talladega Super Speedway, but I think we're going to talk real quick with our in-race reporter, Gavin Fitzgerald. Gavin, Kyle and Seth up in the booth, you got me?
Sir, got you loud and clear.
Very interesting green flag run right there, and you had some close calls. How was racing out there with those guys?
You know, absolutely amazing. It's been really fun up here. I know there was definitely a couple sketchy moments. I know Elliot getting into me was definitely one of them. I know I had a bit of a moment with Brent and everything, but other than that, it's been really fun. Really happy with how the car feels. Slight problem. We just figured out my steering is not calibrated correctly, so that's definitely a bit of an issue. But other than that, truck is running great. You know, lots of good teamwork up here. Everyone's, you know, behaving themselves pretty well. I know we're coming within the last couple laps here, so I'm not sure if that will stay the same way that it is, but I know you know, Ashton's been up here a lot, Brent's been up here, been working very well together, and I'm really looking forward to see how this pans out here.
Looks like the lights have gone out on the pace car, but real quick before you go, this is when things tend to get a little crazy here at the super speedways. We were just talking about how it's going to hit the fan. Are you kind of expecting that here in these last 20 laps?
I mean, definitely, you know, it's always Talladega. There's always going to be a mess towards the end, but you know, I'm looking around, we got Brittle, Shane, Brent, Kyle Hall. We got a good group of guys up here. Definitely hoping that a lot of those accidents are towards the rear of the field. But yeah, you got to just be on your toes. If there's a time to pay attention, it's now. So we will definitely see here, and I'm really excited for the last couple laps.
Gavin Fitzgerald restarting third in the number 14 machine. Good luck on those last few laps, Gavin.
Thank you so much. I'll talk to you. Hope to see you guys in victory lane here in a bit.
Of course.
Tell you what, Kyle, I've been noticing something here when we were doing that in-race interview. They ended up having everybody come to pit road when that caution came out, when pit lane was open. We had about maybe a half dozen drivers, maybe 8 drivers total, stay out, coming to 1 to go, but everybody else came down pit road and topped off the fuel tank. The fuel may be closer than we think. These drivers may be preparing for those extra laps for overtime green-white checkers.
Yeah, from what I saw earlier, it looked like the 25-11 group on that very first pit stop, I think they went 26 laps, I think, on that first pit stop of the race. So I think some of these drivers are expecting maybe this race to go into a couple of overtimes. Because if this race goes into a couple of overtimes, they're going to need that little bit of extra gas. Very possibly. And I'm hearing on the radio, and I'm looking at it right now, half the field's just kind of coasting on the apron trying to save gas, it looks like.
I saw a lot of the drivers up inside the top 8. They were clutching. Yeah, it looks like they're trying to figure out who's running where here, going through the tri-oval. Point of note, 19 of Marshall Harris got the lucky dog under this caution. So 25 drivers on the lead lap, coming back green with 20 to go.
And the reason also you see that long line of drivers, because all those drivers did come in on that last lap, like Seth was saying, so they all had to line up on the inside lane. So pretty much almost a single file restart almost here. The first couple of rows were double file, but the rest of the field single file. What happens here? And the race lead currently held by Hunter Brittle, driver of the number 10 for Dark Horse.
Kyle Hall in that 87, poor guy got left out to dry on that top line because of that rather staggered start there. The top 8 all double wide, but then 9th place on back single file, and Kyle Hall adrift without help. Now looks like Tyrell Baker gonna jump there and try and help push him up to the front, but they're gonna need some more numbers here as one driver, might have been Steven Sims, blinking there in the middle of the pack. We haven't really seen any drivers up in the lead pack with connection problems, but that might be something they'll want to be aware of here if they start getting racy double wide, 3 wide in close proximity.
Leading that bottom line continues to be Brittle, but here comes Kyle Hall with the push from Tyrell Baker, and Baker's going to push that number 87 of Hall to the race lead.
Oh!
They're almost going to wreck. He's no longer in the race lead. Brittle's going to take the lead back on the inside with help from his teammate Nicewanger. Very close call.
Baker tried to push Hall to the lead. He nearly pushed him to the garage area early in this one. My gosh, that 87 was all sorts of out of shape. Tremendous saves we've seen here today.
Some great saves, some great racing. A little under 20 laps to remain here at Talladega Super Speedway here in Alabama. Again, the 87 of Kyle Hall get the job done on the high side. He continues to fight back and forth with Brittle as he continues to get a push from his teammate Nicewanger. Those Dark Horse drivers are working well on the bottom.
In the course of this race, the aggressiveness ramps up. It goes from bump to push and push now to shove. These drivers are shoving every truck in front of them as best they can because they know if they help the truck in front of them move to the front, they're going to the front as well. Things kind of split up here towards the lead pack. You've got Baker and Kenny up on the top side working together. Further back, how about Nathan jump back up into the picture in that 29 helping the one of Brent Kincott?
Nathan Jubb, a very talented race car driver, got held up on pit road a couple of times and lost a lot of time underneath those green flag pit stops, but he's back up here competing as Brittle jumps up to the high side in front of Baker. He's trying to take the race lead back on the high side with the help from Baker, and Baker's probably been the strongest pusher all day, but that also comes with the price. We've also seen him almost turn a couple of guys around today. A very aggressive pusher in Baker, but has a lot of speed.
I'm going to be honest, we haven't talked a lot about Hunter Brittle coming into this race, but I feel he was a driver that could have possibly been a contender in the playoffs as well with the runs we saw him have. The problem that the 10 car always seemed to have in the closing stage of the race was he would get caught up in a late race incident. Only 1 top 5 and 2 top 10s for his efforts in the 9 starts he made, 19th in the points coming into this race. I get a feeling that this could be a race could play out into his favor as well to maybe get his first win of the season.
And him and his race team, Dark Horse, would love to see that. Dark Horse was very strong last season. A lot of people expected them to go out there and get some victories and make the playoffs this season, but Dark Horse has been on the weaker side of things throughout most of the season, so it'd be very good for their race team to get to victory lane as Baker shuts the door. There was maybe a piece of paper in between himself and the nose of the number 10.
Would be a very thin piece of paper. Tyrell Baker, to your point, started on the pole. He's been up inside the top 10 all day long, been one of the best pushers and been maybe one of the best blockers when he gets to the race lead as well. But you have to wonder when it gets close to the end of this race, is it going to be one block too many? Tyrell Baker trying to do something that is so difficult to do when it comes to super speedway racing, go coast to coast, pole to win.
And Baker get the job done. He's been looking strong all day. He's ran in the top 5, top 10 all race long. But can he make it to the finish? Things are calming down a little bit, but it's just the calm before the storm. A little over 15 laps remain.
And again, the big question of where are these guys on fuel? Saw a number of drivers coasting out of turn 4, coming to the start-finish line. Just what do the numbers look like for these guys? Are they good to make it on the regularly scheduled distance? Were they preparing for overtime green-white checkers? Things could get very dicey in the closing stages. My assumption would be that they're good to make it to the end of this race. The telltale sign, the 0.25, willing to be out in front. That's where you use up the most fuel, creating the draft for the drivers behind you. I think if these guys were that close on fuel, he would not be that willing to aggressively move his way to the front the way he did. And Brittle, my gosh, that's 2 saves he made right there in the span of about 200 feet down the back straightaway.
Yeah, he got a huge push from his teammate Nicewanger coming down the back straightaway, able to save it, keeps it straight, and that battle continues at the front of this field with 15 laps remaining. But yeah, these drivers should be able to make it to the end of regulation with the fuel they have in the tank, even the drivers that didn't come in and top off. But if this race goes to overtime, that could really change things. But everybody here in the field should be good to the end as long as they filled up their tanks.
I'll tell you, that caution, it saved a bunch of drivers. Mentioned that Marshall Harris got the free pass. He's the 4th truck on that outside line right now, unofficially in 8th position. Matthew Rodriguez, who got a speeding penalty under the 2nd round of green flag pit stops, he's back up inside the top 10 in 9th. And you've also got Nathan Jump, I mentioned, up here back inside the top 10, now back in 12th. He was running on the tail end of the lead lap when that caution came out. So there's a lot of drivers that are looking up at the sky saying, thank you very much for that yellow flag, because it has given them a new opportunity at winning this race.
And I'm looking back at it, and I don't think either of those drivers actually got the lucky dog. I think they both waved around Harris and Rodriguez. I'm looking at their stints, and they have not been down pit lane for almost 20 laps. So those two drivers cannot make it on fuel. They're going to need another caution to make it.
You would be correct with that, so I'm not necessarily certain who did get the lucky dog under that last yellow flag. So now those two drivers definitely want to see another caution because, yeah, to your point, they're going to have to be on pit road within the next 6-7 laps here. No way they can make it the rest of the scheduled distance.
Battle continues at the front of this field, though, between the Dark Horse drivers, Nicewanger and Brittle, facing off. They also have Justin Mons back here. Mons isn't part of Dark Horse, but he works with these two drivers awfully well, as he was part of Dark Horse last season.
Sometimes former teammates can certainly be an aid to you. And the 96 to 49 you're seeing right there is still nose to tail. Robert Kenny just behind them in the 0-1. Don't forget, Robert Kenny was involved in that second caution. Had that really weird spin off the back bumper of Tyler McClellan. But despite the visible left front damage there on his machine, looks like he is still up to speed, good to go. As, man, that was a dicey block there off of turn 2 by Baker to Nicewanger. Brittle tried to follow it up, but now drops back down to Kyle Hall. Baker's going to get a big run down the back straightaway.
Hall giving a big push to Brittle going into 3 and 4. A little over 10 laps remain. Does Brittle try to go back up high and block Baker again, or does he stay down on the bottom side?
One thing I've noticed here as well, Elliot Henderson, Hunter Madalinas, Jake Miller, we saw all those drivers up towards the front most of this race. Those guys are all the way back 21st, 23rd, and 24th. So are they staying out of trouble? Are they saving fuel? I'm not certain what's going on with that trio.
I think they're staying out of trouble because they see these drivers up at the front. We have yet to have the big one. The big one has not happened. We've had a couple of decent accidents that took out a couple of cars, but we haven't had the big one, so it's only a matter of time.
Whoa, Rodriguez, what a save there, as he got a bad bump from, I think that was Harris. And now another driver, Kenny, there out of shape as he crosses from top to bottom down the backstretch.
Yeah, the way these drivers are racing right now, they're trying to set up for the end of this race. It's only a matter of time before the big one happens, the way they're racing at the moment. It looks like Heller has a decent amount of nose damage right there. There you see it, Christopher Heller. Decent amount of nose damage. Most likely won't be able to lead the field, but he's been able to stay in the draft pretty well.
Heller get involved in that last caution, but he was in the vicinity, so he may have gotten some damage from that. Might have actually been the driver that bumped Jordan Gonzalez up into the outside wall. Maybe my camera angle didn't show that, but yeah, definitely that damage is going to hurt him if he's trying to lead a line, and so might have to be the pusher to help get somebody else to victory lane. As, my goodness, I mean, we've got 4 lanes here down the back straightaway, and they're using every bit of them. As Kyle Hall got forced below the yellow line, he's trying to find his way back up. Kenny doesn't want to let him in. Harris looks like he's going to. These guys are dancing around here. We are miles away from that big one, and that nearly was it right there.
Baker saves it and keeps it underneath the line. He's going to have to fall back and try to gain back those spots. I don't know how they haven't wrecked yet. This is insane here at the front of the field.
Kyle Busch somewhere would be proud if he saw what Tyrell Baker was able to do with his truck on the apron through 3 and 4. We mentioned Matthew Rodriguez could not make it on fuel without the aid of a caution. He's brought the Steak and Shake Toyota to pit lane.
Rodriguez unfortunately had to make that left turn to come down pit lane, was unable to make it the rest of the way on fuel. The 49 of Niswanger leads the field with help from Christopher Heller in second spot. You have Hunter Brittle in that third position. The battle's on.
Oh, Kenny!
It's a bump. It's Kenny. And Kenny trying to get back onto the racetrack. Will he get the space to get back up? He will.
For a moment, that truck might come right back up into the pack. Another great save here. You mentioned the fact we haven't had the big one. Well, theoretically, we've had 5 big ones. We just haven't had any wrecked trucks, as there's Harris coming to pit lane, another of the wave around drivers.
Yeah, Marshall Harris having to make that pit stop, unable to make it to the finish on fuel because of getting that wave around. Little under 10 laps remain, 8 laps to go. Brittle and Niswanger from Dark Horse lead the field, and they're followed by Heller and Ryan Potter, who both have damaged trucks but are up here at the front.
This is the beauty of super speedway racing, because it gives a driver an opportunity to get their first win on the season. I mean, just look who we've got right here. Steven Sims, Hunter Brittle, Ryan Potter, Shane Niswanger, Justin Mons, Brent Kingcott. None of these drivers, as Brandon Barkuski's up into the wall there in 3-4, none of these drivers found victory lane. Here we go! Kyle Hall, Matthew Durr in the middle of the pack. The big one has struck.
There it is. Not a huge accident, but it takes out a good amount of cars there. Decent
Austin
accident
Moore.
in 3 and 4.
I'm seeing a lot of playoff drivers here. Zachary Henry, Brandon Barkuski, Austin Moore, all in this vicinity. I think maybe Elliot Henderson might have been in the middle of it also.
Some playoff drivers involved in this late race. Caution number 3 of the race, and this might end up setting up a green-white checkered opportunity 1. We'll have to see. Gonna take a look at the replay as well, see who maybe got involved in this incident.
Started with the 87 of Kyle Hall. I think he got some assistance from the 2 of Matthew Durr.
Here we are going to see the incident. It looked like Hall was avoiding Barkuski to start off the incident. Here we are going to take a look at it. Kyle Hall coming down the back straightaway. You're going to see Barkuski in front of him get up into the wall going into 3 and 4. Hall gives him a slight bump. Barkuski goes in the wall. Hall is slowing down for this, but at this point, it looks like he gets a bump. Durr gets a bump from Kenny. Then Kenny gets a bump from... Then Hall gets a bump from Durr, and it just all piles up from that. RJ Williams getting a pretty heavy hit from that as well.
Yeah, I just looked back at it, and Barkuski up into the wall was actually an errant bump from the 87 of Kyle Hall behind him that kind of set this whole thing off.
Big pile up, and there you see Jake Miller involved. Look at Michael Sensi also involved in this. Henderson taking his time, just kind of coasting through the incident. I don't think Henderson had any damage in the 37, was able to just sneak on through the incident. I'm going to take an onboard look at Michael Sensi here, driver the number 92. Here you see him in the middle and goes up to the high side, gets a little damage, and then just has nowhere to go at that point as Miller pops up in front of him. 2 drivers from the same race team of E95 right there.
I've got half dozen drivers I've counted here that were involved in this incident of our playoff contenders. Barkuski, Miller, Moore, Sensi. Moore's day is done. That truck was smoking leaving the incident, but on the flip side, we had a number of drivers, a number of playoff contenders that did a good job getting through that. You mentioned about Elliot Henderson, Nathan Jump, and Hunter Madalinas also were able to slip their way through. Also the 12 of Zachary Henry. So nice job by a couple of the drivers there towards the tail end of this pack to either be able to sneak their way through or come to a stop, as we saw Henderson do.
Yeah, just a pretty nasty accident for some of these drivers caught up in the incident here in 3 and 4. A late race accident on caution number 3. Going to take an onboard look right here. Yeah, it gives Barkuski just that little bit of a bump, and that's all that it takes. And just kind of stacks up behind him, unfortunately, and just kind of just the track kind of gets closed off in 3 and 4, and a couple playoff guys ended up getting caught up in it because of it.
It's a big hit there for Bob Kenny in the 0-1 as that truck went up and over on its roof. Somehow, some way, though, that thing is still under power, is actually returning back to the racetrack from pit road. Only lost a lap there making repairs.
You see the look backwards, and you just see the mayhem behind. All this kind of stacks up behind a lot of carnage into 3 and 4, and we'll be watching this pace car here, and interested to see if we're going to end up getting I don't think we're going to get our first attempt at a green-white checkered here. I think it's going to be a natural green-white checkered or maybe even a 3-lap shootout here after this caution.
This caution, I'll tell you what, I don't know what it is that the 57 has in the cockpit. He might have a horseshoe, he might have a rabbit's foot, he might have a 4-leaf clover, but the caution has saved him twice. End up getting the speeding penalty under the second round of green flag pit stops, second caution of the day, keeps him up in the lead pack on the lead lap. Had to come to pit road because he was short on fuel after taking the wave around. Caution comes out now, and he's going to be restarting, it looks like up inside of the top 11 or 12 here, still on the lead lap. So the cautions have been Matthew Rodriguez's best friend here tonight.
Yeah, good old Emrod's been getting helped out with those caution flags, and looks like the lights are actually out on the paced car here. So these drivers are going to get a 4-lap shootout, actually. 4 laps to go when they go green flag racing here. It looks like Brittle is actually going to decide on the high side here, forcing his teammate Niswanger to the bottom. So Brittle will get help from Christopher Heller, as Niswanger will get help from Ryan Potter. I don't know if either of those drivers could be a big help on this restart with the damage they have.
I think what's going on here is what Joey Logano coined the okie dokie. I think with the 10 being the race leader, he is the control car. He'll try and get a decent enough launch that he can clear the 49 by the time they come around to the start-finish line, then move down to the inside line and try and tow the 49 of Niswanger into the second position. We'll see if that's going to work.
Awesome. We'll have to see how this goes with the 10 and the 49. This has been some awesome racing here at the end of the race, and I'm excited to see how this finish comes out. And I'm honestly expecting a driver we don't expect to go to victory lane. Not a driver up here at the front. I could definitely see a driver from outside the top 10, top 15 still able to win this race here, Seth.
Well, we saw in the early stages of this race how drivers that started outside of the top 20, top 25 were up inside of the top 10, top 5, only 5 laps in. So, yeah, there is no doubt in my mind that you look back at drivers like Tyrell Baker, who's had one of the strongest trucks of the evening back in 12th. Zachary Henry, we haven't really exactly been able to see the speed out of that truck here today as he and his teammates have been playing the right at the back strategy. He's back in 13th. Elliot Henderson, we know he's got a fast truck, has led a number of laps tonight. He's back in 14th. So keep an eye on those guys because they are not out of the conversation for this win just yet.
Coming off turns 3 and 4, we're going to see the iRacing pace car come down pit road once again, possibly for the last time here after caution number 3. Hunter Brittle is going to lead him to the green flag on the high side. His teammate Niswanger on the inside. Here they come into the tri-oval, about to enter the Geico restart zone. When does the number 10 decide to hit the gas? Is he able to pull down in front of his teammate here? Green flag is out for Hunter Brittle, and he's immediately going to jump down in front of his teammate Shane Niswanger to the bottom side. Is the high side able to get their stuff together? The inside is actually kind of falling apart here at the front of the field as Kincott moves to the high side. Now Heller moves to the inside.
Heller going to tuck into that 4th position again with that front end damage. May not feel he's got a truck strong enough to lead an outside line. That's going to fall to Steven Sims, Brent Kincott, Gavin Fitzgerald, and others. Nathan Jump, he wants to form a 3rd lane. Looks like Elliot Henderson might be willing to help him out along with Hunter Madalinas, but they're quite a ways back. As now it's going to be Heller. He's actually going to jump up there, take a peek to the top, now back to the inside line.
4 laps remain, coming to 3 to go this time by race leader Hunter Brittle on the inside. Niswanger right behind him. You have the 60 of Potter. Heller right there. This middle lane is beginning to get going, led by the number 6 of Sims.
Oh, there they go.
Behind, and they're going through the tri-oval. Green flag will stay out. Lawson's wrecked onto pit lane. Green flag will stay. No caution.
The other truck was Brandon Barkuski, who's now coming back up onto the racetrack, exiting the tri-oval to the start-finish line. To your point, though, down the infield grass, no caution, we stay green.
Quarter racing here. There goes Brittle. And this is the big one right here off the corner. Our leader's taken out in this, and Rodriguez gets hit. Oh, no.
This is practically everybody that was in that lead group.
And who does this leave alive? And Rodriguez is not happy with Ryan Potter at all.
Man, Brittle having to avoid there as Potter almost came up into him. Wow, it's a who's who of who was involved in this one. Elliot Henderson, I think, finally his luck ran out. He got a little bit of this incident. Saw a number of drivers, Gavin Fitzgerald, Michael Sensi, all darting down to the inside of the racetrack.
Take a look at this replay here. You're going to see Brittle on the inside. His teammate Nicewanger right behind him. Nicewanger just bumps him on the left side of the bumper, and you can't do that, especially in the corner. And then he gets also into Heller, and then he gets into Potter. Wow. And number 49 in the center of this incident kept involved as well. And I was looking at Henderson. I think Henderson actually barely made it past this incident. It was very close for the 37. Was running through very slow and might have actually made it past the incident. We're going to take an onboard look of Henderson. It was very close for him.
Yeah, I think you're right, actually. I thought he was involved. I thought he might have sideswiped the 63 of Eric Kempf, but now as I look at it, I think he just barely was able to swing that machine to the right to avoid Kempf. So, my gosh, Elliot Henderson, if we had an All-State Good Hands Award, I think he'd already have won it.
Henderson barely able to make it through it, and he won last week to get himself into the playoffs, a clutch performance, and then also a clutch performance here today. A couple weeks ago, most people counted him out to snag another championship, but he's still right there in the middle of it, and he maybe even put himself in a prime position after all these drivers involved in the playoffs, involved in this incident here.
Now, believe it or not, the driver that this all started with was the leader at the time, Hunter Brittle. He went around for a pretty good spin, but he did not make contact with anybody. So I think he might be okay. He's obviously going to lose track position, but that could have been a lot worse for him.
Yeah, let's keep an eye on this number 10 of Brittle. You're going to see him right here. He's spinning, he's spinning, he's spinning. He's still spinning, and he doesn't hit anybody or hit the wall. Almost barely hit the wall, barely avoided it, and just whips it on around and keeps going. So to your point, Seth, very, very interesting to see Brittle be at the front of this incident and not get any contact from anybody or the wall. We'll look at the onboard of Matthew Rodriguez here and see him almost get through the incident here on the bottom side. He barely gets clipped. It looks like it's open for him, and then it just closes off because of Potter. I guess that's why he wasn't happy with Potter, but not anything Potter did necessarily.
Yeah, when I watched it back, it looked like Ryan Potter wasn't in control of his truck. He was trying to see if he could maybe get that thing turned back around. May have gotten back on the throttle when he came down to the path of Rodriguez. Obviously, the frustration there for Rodriguez had gotten the aid of two cautions to get him back into the conversation. Thought he had a shot at this thing, and just like that, it goes up in smoke. But you know, that's the problems with super speedway racing. Sometimes it'll play in your favor, and more often than not, when you're in the middle of a big one, it's going to probably put you on the end of the tow hook.
Now we're in the green-white checkered territory. Now we have to actually start to think about gas a little bit. Can these drivers make it on gas? Because there's a couple, most of the drivers came down pit lane, but it looks like the front five here had stayed out.
Yeah, that's the drivers that we're going to have to focus on there. Sims, Kingcott, Mons, Jump, and Heller. Jump, you see actually down on the apron there trying to save a little bit of fuel through 3 and 4. I don't know just exactly how much further these guys can go. If my calculations are right, they've got enough for one green-white checkered. I'm not certain they would have enough for another one.
And that's what I'm thinking too, Seth. I think these drivers should have enough gas for one green-white checkered, but if we end up getting a second or a third one, I think that's where it's going to be a little iffy for these drivers. That's why you see a driver like Nathan Jump down there saving gas. Jump, a very smart driver, competing for a championship. It's actually our furthest, our highest up competitor in the playoffs in the field at the moment. You see the leaders come past the line, and the lights go out on the pace cars, so that's very good for the front five here, as they're going to go green flag racing this time by. But will it be the last time they go green flag?
You talk about Nathan Jump restarting in 4th, the highest of the playoff drivers. Well, you've got Jump, Heller, Henry, Miller, Madalinas, and Henderson, 4th through 9th. Throw a blanket over them. All playoff contenders trying to win their way into the round of 8.
See if any of those playoff guys get to victory lane, or maybe we can have an upset. Maybe Sims, Kingcott, Mons up here. Can one of these drivers find themselves in victory lane? I remember Justin Mons used to be a full-time competitor here in the Great Lakes Truck Series. Very competitive driver, came close to winning so many races, was probably the most unluckiest driver in Great Lakes Truck Series for a certain amount of time. So I know he would just love to win here in the Great Lakes Truck Series. It'd be long overdue for that 96 machine.
And you look at your current podium here for this restart, they have driven a smart super speedway race. All three of these drivers have started no higher than 24th. King Cott was 24th, Mons was 28th, and Steven Sims was 37th when the green flag dropped here earlier on tonight. Here they all are up at the front with a chance of picking up a checkered flag, their first checkered flag of the season at Talladega.
Coming through turns 3 and 4 here. Going to take the green flag here after caution number 4. What is the strategy? Do any of these drivers have a partner really to work with? Looking back at Henderson, Miller, and Madalinas, I know those guys will work pretty well together. So if they get up here, those drivers are definitely drivers to watch. The same thing with Henry and Heller, two very good teammates who tend to work very well together, and Barkuski's not too far behind them as well. So we'll have to see how this goes as the Mustang is going to pull down pit road once again here. And the number 6 of Sims is going to lead him to the green with King Cott on his inside. Right behind Sims, you're going to have Nathan Jump. Then behind King Cott, you have the number 96 of Mons. And here they come through the tri-oval, about to enter the restart zone for possibly the final time here after caution number 4. Green flag is out here at Talladega for green-white checkered attempt number 1 here.
Sim's going to drop to the bottom, try and pick up King Cott. Might have gotten a little too far out in front, about a truck length and a half. They're going to have a big run on him here through 1 and 2. He might be okay for the moment. We'll see if King Cott stays in line or if he jumps up top off of 2.
Here they come out of turns 1 and 2. Heller's trying to get underneath Mons. The space isn't there. Heller has to back off a little bit in the front 3. Have a little gap back to 4th. And here comes Jump on the high side with a huge push from behind.
Also got Madalinas up there and Hunter Brittle, who jumped to the middle when the green flag dropped at the start-finish line. Now already back up inside the top 10.
Will these drivers make it to the white, or will we get the caution flag before we get there? Henry trying to jump up to the high side and will make it 3 wide. Nathan Jump is going to go into the sucker hole here, coming to the white flag. That's the last thing he wants to see. And will they make it? They're going to spin, and the white flag is not in the air. The white flag is not in the air. Caution is out right before they make it to the white.
Speed will decrease. We will rack them up. We will try it again. I don't know just how close we were to that thing possibly ending. That had to be, what, maybe inches?
I don't even, because right when Sims crossed the line, the caution came out. I was expecting to see the white flag pop up. Here you see the white, and watch this. He's gonna change out flags so quickly. We're gonna get this replay right here. Yeah, you see him waving the white flag, and it takes a minute. There you go. There it is. The yellow came out when he passed the line. We'll have to take a look at maybe the lights around the racetrack. But very close there, and Miller involved. A lot of good race car drivers involved in this incident.
Trying to see if I can find an area here with maybe an onboard of a driver, see if I can... Alright, so from what I'm seeing here, Steven Sims, I've got it frozen with his splitter right on the start-finish line. I went back to 9th place Brandon Barkuski, his onboard, the green lights were still on the fencing.
Caution comes out for Sims, though, and we will get another attempt at this green-white checkered. It looked like Sims just maybe got past the line before the caution had come out, but the drivers were wrecked on the front straightaway, so maybe just a little what would you call it? A time lapse or whatever you would call it from iRacing, just not being able to react to the incident quick enough.
Yeah, the 12 was definitely sideways before the 6 got to the start-finish line. That's for absolute certain. So you're right, there might have been a little bit of a time lapse there of the actual caution flying to it being indicated on the caution lights there around this racetrack.
Pretty massive incident for some of these drivers. A couple of guys getting in the air, including Sensi and Miller, who both went airborne almost like Tony Hawk, and this kind of forced most, if actually no, the whole rest of the field actually came down pit lane and topped off on gas, it looked like, or are they still just kind of riding around? They're just riding around on the bottom here, saving gas. I thought they were pulling out of pit lane. I haven't been watching the live feed. But
You had a couple of drivers that pit, but I think for the most part, everybody that came to pit lane under this caution, it was to repair damage.
Interested to see if any of these guys are going to come short on fuel, because it's going to be really close on this second green-white checkered. The third green-white checkered, the guys that had not come in and top off on fuel, I don't see any chance for them to make it through that third green-white checkered.
I'm almost wondering too, we had the whole confusion up here of whether they had come around and gotten the white flag or not. You saw those hard hits there, most notably the 92 of Michael Sensi. Looked like a lot of drivers didn't really lift for the wreck, possibly also in the same belief that we were originally, that the white flag was displayed and they were racing back to the checkered, so they didn't feel that they had to lift for the wreck at that point in time.
Just watching these guys on the apron here, and they're definitely concerning here if they're going to be able to make it to the finish on fuel here, Seth. What happens, do you think, if these drivers run out of fuel on maybe the front straightaway? How does this finish go?
I think that if you are Jake Miller, Hunter Madalinas, Elliot Henderson, you have to be fully aware of that possibility, and you have to have a game plan in motion, an escape plan, a lane that you'll be able to take. And Sims, I'm going to pit road. Look at that. So he obviously definitely felt that he would not have enough fuel in the pickup for the upcoming restart.
I don't think it's that bad of a decision either, because if they're not going to make it, look who's on the track. There's only a couple of drivers on the lead lap on the track, and I think Miller's engine just blew up. On the racetrack. That was that little puff of smoke behind the number 4, but Jake Miller's engine just blew up on track underneath these pace laps.
That could have been maybe internal damage from the incident that just occurred. We saw with the replay how he was kind of launched into the air and then like a javelin went nose first back into the racing surface. Something might have been jarred loose internally on that number 4 machine. Boy, you mentioned it about possibly winning his way into the round of 8 here tonight, going in worry-free into the upcoming races at Watkins Glen in Kentucky in the hopes of defending his championship. Going to be a little bit of pressure now put on him.
Yeah, because I was thinking about it earlier. If Miller's going to get eliminated in any round, this is the most likely round. You have Talladega, which is just a complete wild card, but then you have Watkins Glen, and Jake Miller isn't necessarily one of the best road course racers. He's probably an average road course racer at best. Then you have Kentucky, where I would expect him to go out there and compete for the win or get a top 5, but if he has issues at Kentucky, gets involved in an accident, finishes in the back, who knows? Miller could possibly be eliminated in this first round. I doubt it, but anything is possible.
So we saw Sims, Mont, and Kincott come to pit lane to top off the fuel tank, make absolutely certain that they can make it the rest of the way, depending on how many more green-white checkers we have here. To your point, it doesn't exactly hurt them because they're still going to be restarting up inside of the top 15, 11th through 13th. We know that their trucks are still in good shape. They're still up to speed. Very little damage sustained during the course of this race. So there is every possibility within 2 laps that they could find their way back up to the front.
Yeah, these drivers that came down and topped off fuel, they didn't really lose very many spots. So they might be able to get right back up there and compete for this win here at the end. But here comes the Mustang down pit lane once again here for the second green-white checkered. Heller is going to lead him to the green on the inside. He has Madalinas right behind him, and he has Henderson on his outside. And Brittle's all ready to go in that 5th spot. Already gave a bump to Madalinas before they even got to the restart zone. And the green flag is out, and Madalinas blinks at the worst time, and that's going to cause these drivers to back off.
Well, you see a lot of trucks back there did not get up to speed. Other trucks darting left and right to avoid as Madalinas. That truck looks relatively pristine there. He'll drive around the top side, and he'll take the top spot away from Christopher Heller out of turn 2.
I think Nathan Jump's motor just blew up on that restart as well, because he immediately dropped down to the bottom, and he is coasting on the bottom of the racetrack. A lot of trucks with a lot of damage here at the end. Who will be the survivor? At the front of the field, you have Christopher Heller. and Madalenas battling it out. Here comes Mons on the high side in the 96.
Big run from Mons. He's got Eric Kemp. He's got Brent Kincott there as well. 5 trucks in this lead pack. Again, the question, can they bring it back to the start-finish line without incident? Will the white flag be displayed? Kincott's coming to pit road. Also, Sims in the 6 coming to pit lane.
They must have gotten a black flag on that restart. A lot of slow vehicles on that restart, so they might have been forced to pass somebody on the inside. Very unfortunate. And here comes James Shiflett on the high side, the number 28. Amazing run. Can James Shiflett steal the race?
James Shiflett spent 75% of this race a lap down. Got the lucky dog under the caution prior to the last one, and he's got a shot of winning this race.
Shiflett to the high side. Mons in the middle. Kep is going to give the push to Shiflett. And Madalenas and Heller working together on the bottom. Mons squeezing Heller, and they're going to make contact for second. Shiflett gets pushed up. Can anybody get to Madalenas?
Very interesting that Christopher Heller is helping a playoff contender to possibly win this race. Here comes Mons, though, with a run on the top side. Can he make something happen? Blocking lanes. Madalenas looks like he may have this.
Oh, and Madalenas comes back up and blocks, and here comes Shiflett, and James Shiflett is going to win the race. James Shiflett is going to win the race. The driver, 28. James Shiflett has won it. He has done it.
Second super speedway race of the season.
Madalenas
Story part 2.
Madalenas ran out of gas coming to the line. That's what had happened. Oh my goodness, he was sputtering coming to the line.
Unbelievable.
One of the greatest finishes in history. Madalenas sputtering coming to the line, trying to block Kep. And Kep was not the one to worry about. It was James Shiflett. James Shiflett in the Miller Lite machine gets his first career victory in epic fashion.
The driver of the SP2 Racing Toyota came into this race with only 2 top 10s, no top 5s. Well, he'll have a 1 in the top 5 column and a 1 in the win column. Unbelievable job, again, like I said, for a driver that was a lap down for a majority of this race. Kind of to pull a Larry McReynolds. Where did he come from?
Oh my gosh, this is the closer part 2, and he did it right on the closer himself, Hunter Madalenas. James Shiflett with the victory. Eric Kef coming to give his congratulations. Mr. Pink with a great performance in second place, but we're going to have to take another look at that fantastic finish at the line, as this was almost 3 wide. Madalenas, you can clearly tell, was out of gas because he is just way off the pace right before they hit the line.
And Shiflett never changed his lane. He never darted left, never darted right. So he had his momentum still. Kempf was diving to the inside. Madalenas was trying to block. So credit to Shiflett not doing anything that was going to hurt his straightaway speed. That was, I think, a huge deciding factor into him beating Eric Kempf to the stripe.
What a fantastic finish. I can't say enough about this finish. We're going to take another look at as they come out of turn 4 here. You see Madalenas on the inside. He's blocking the inside. He's not sputtering yet. He's on the inside, and right around here is when he starts sputtering. And you can see him wiggle that car trying to block, and he just is unable to. And just very unlucky for Madalenas to run out of gas that short of the finish line.
About a couple, well, maybe not even a couple, maybe just 100 feet away from the start-finish line. Now, the good news for Hunter Madalenas, though, is he is going to be the highest finisher of our playoff drivers, finishing the final spot on the podium. But this means now, with James Shiflett going to victory lane, nobody yet has locked themselves into the round of 8 of our 12 playoff contenders.
Great finish and just amazing. And imagine if Heller was able to actually get next to Madalenas. He was trying to and just was unable to. If Heller was able to get up next to Madalenas, Heller probably would have been in victory lane here today.
You saw it right there. You saw that the only truck that never changed its line all the way through the tri-oval was the 28 of Shiflett. You had the contact there with Heller. You had the contact with Madalenas. Shiflett just kind of let the waters part for him and drove right on through.
Insanity here at Talladega Super Speedway. But James Shiflett, the driver of the number 28, he's going to be drinking some Miller Lights tonight because he has gotten his first career victory in Great Lakes competition. A very tough season for Shiflett, but able to get the job done here at Talladega. It has to feel good for him. And we're going to try to get you some interviews here in a moment. But any thoughts about that finish? Any last thoughts about that finish there, Seth, before we get to these interviews?
Just what we said at the top of the program. In order to finish first, in order to take that checkered flag, you had to drive a smart race. Now, granted, Shiflett ended up hitting some early struggles that put him a lap down, but he kept on fighting. And that's what you have to do. We know that Talladega and Daytona Superspeedway racing, it's racing of attrition. You just have to be there at the end, keep fighting, and you never know what's going to happen. I'll tell you what, the super speedway races have not disappointed this season. We had the underdog story with Lewis Woodall at Daytona, Shiflett here tonight at Talladega. I'll tell you what, I think you got to circle these super speedways on the calendar next season because I think more underdog stories could be getting ready to unfold.
That is for sure. And we definitely had an underdog story tonight. But then we're going to get started on the interviews. I think I'm going to bring in our highest finishing playoff driver, finishing in third tonight, Hunter Madalinas. Hunter, Kyle and Seth up in the booth. You got me?
Yeah, I got you.
Hunter, that was an insane race. You were quiet at the first part, but the end of the race was insane. How was it really trying to save that gas underneath the caution? We saw everybody going underneath the line. How intense was that?
Yeah, I thought I had enough fuel going on that restart. I was talking to Elliot and all the guys over there at D95, and I was like, I'm gonna have enough fuel, I think, to run this restart. But if we had another caution, I was gonna have to bring it down pit road, and I thought I was all fine. I thought I had saved enough fuel, and man, just coming through that trioval, I was getting ready to be so proud to finally win a super speedway race, and it ran out literally 100 feet, and I think that's the most heartbroken I've ever been in my career.
Yeah, we were seeing it on the screen. You're trying to come down, maybe block Kev to hold him off, and then Shiflett goes flying by on the high side, but you still were able to, focusing on big picture here, you were still able to be the highest finishing playoff driver when a lot of playoff drivers had troubles. Shouldn't you be proud of that moment at least coming out of Talladega?
Definitely. You gotta like I gotta put it out of my head going into next week, and I'll probably forget about it kind of going into tomorrow. But that's what you gotta do in these playoffs. You gotta think forward. Next week's the Glen, and I know it's a road course, so I'll definitely probably be in contention for that, hopefully. And I just gotta put this behind me. It's a hiccup, and it's been a long road for me to try and get another win, but we've been as consistent as can be, and that's why we're staying in this points lead. But it's just frustrating when you run out about 100 feet from the line and you get a win taken away from you.
Consistent is the word that would describe you this season, Hunter. It's been kind of the tale of 3 seasons. Back in season 4, you got a whole bunch of wins and was dominant of the regular season. Last season struggled a little bit, but this season you've been Mr. Consistent, been running up in the top 5, top 10 almost every week. I know you're looking forward to the Glen, but we also have Kentucky in a couple of weeks. What's your outlook on Kentucky?
To have enough points to not have to worry about Kentucky. I Kentucky is a challenging track, but I'm hoping that with the points I gained here from Talladega and the points that I'll hopefully gain next week at the Glen, that Kentucky won't have to be a worry. I think the next closest playoff driver was like 7th or 8th, so I think we gained a decent amount of points on all the playoff drivers. It's just a matter of going forward, keep pushing, and move on to the next round.
We appreciate you talking here today with us, Hunter. But before we let you go, anybody you have to thank or any sponsors you have to thank for your performance out there today?
I gotta thank E95, Elliot Henderson for taking me on board this season. I gotta apologize to Zach Henry. It's unforgivable what I did, and it was an honest mistake. And I hope we're gonna keep it on good quarters with each other. But thank you for y'all. Y'all do this each and every week, just like with us, and I really appreciate it.
We appreciate you, Hunter, and we hope to speak to you next week at the Glen. We know how fast you are there.
Yep, thank you.
That was Hunter Madalinas, third place finisher, driver of the number 9. And now I think we're going to begin to talk to our second place finisher, Mr. Pink, aka Eric Kev. Eric, Kyle and Seth up in the booth. You got me?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you, Eric. You finished second. You started second, but that doesn't really read how your day went. How was your day, Eric? Because you were kind of all over the place.
I was all over the place. Yeah, I started up front, kind of stayed up front early. Then the things got a little bit crazy, so I decided to drop back a little bit, try and work with some teammates. I lost the draft during green flag pit stops, and then just kind of settled in back until all the craziness happened. And then the craziness happened, and you got a SP2 Spectrum 1-2 finish there.
Yeah, it was an amazing finish right there, and I saw you congratulate Shiflett after the race. I bet that must be a really proud moment for your race team to see a driver like James Shiflett get to victory lane here tonight.
Absolutely. I mean, it's really, really, we got kind of a development team with SP2, and it's just guys that, maybe not, aren't, normally quick enough to run for like a championship, or we got a couple guys that run part time on that team, and I'm just, that's kind of our development team for them to run on. And James got the win for him today. That's, I believe, SP2's potentially first win. I can't remember if anybody else won on that team before, but I'm just really happy that he was able to get that lead when Hunter ran out of gas. I kind of went low and got hit a little bit by Hunter there, and it just worked out perfectly for James. And Heller there and Mons got together, which cleared the way for us. So it worked out great.
Yeah, that was an insane finish, and the whole last 10, 20 laps were very intense of people thinking about fuel. Were you really thinking about fuel as hard as these other guys?
So I was in a couple of those late well, I was in one of the wrecks I was in, and that led me to be able to go down pit road and fill it up with fuel. So those last two restarts, the two green white checkers, I was completely fine to make it on fuel. I filled up the tank, so I could have gone another 15 laps, and I would have been fine.
Yeah, a lot of people are really, really paying attention to that gasoline here tonight in the late goings, and fortunately, you're one of the guys able to make it, not sputtering to the line, and able to snag that second place finish, just short of a victory. I did hear you during qualifying. You almost get the pole. I did hear you come over the radio, so that had to be disappointing to come just short of the pole and the win here tonight. But a great performance, and for the rest of the season, I know you're not in the playoffs, but are you kind of just out there trophy hunting throughout the rest of the season?
At this point, I am. I'm going to support RJ and Josh as much as I can. The pole thing is really, really bothering me. I have the 63 truck has been in every single GLTS race, and it does not have a pole. I have a lot of second place starts on these restrictor plate super speedway tracks, but I do not have a pole in this league. And we're going 0 for about 92 or 93 right now, so that's kind of eating away at me. But yeah, I want to just, it stinks I'm not in the playoffs. I missed it by like 2 points, and this would have been a great start to the playoffs if we were in it. But Elliott's win knocked me out last week. But yeah, it's just support RJ and Josh as much as possible going forward the rest of the season, as long as they're still in the playoffs, and just do the best I can to maybe try and run pretty well here.
Appreciate you talking to us, Eric. Before we let you go, anybody or any sponsors you have to thank for your performance out there today, man?
I mean, I always have to thank Ocean Network Express and Crossroads Cars.com. They have been on board every race this season, I do believe. It's not a paid sponsorship, but I got to thank my buddy Tony, who always watches. I got to thank Connor, and I got to thank RJ and the rest of the Spectrum SB2 guys, and King Cot Fosnow Motorsports guys for making this a pretty competitive race for us.
You heard it there. Appreciate you speaking with us, Eric, and hope to speak to you maybe next week after the Glen.
Yeah, it's been a long time since an interview with you guys. So yeah, I'll be looking forward to it. I don't expect you'll be talking to me after the Glen, but maybe something else later.
Maybe Kentucky.
Maybe Kentucky. That's my home track. It's about 45 minutes
There
from
you go.
where I grew up. So yep. Thank you guys. Thank you.
Yeah, of course, Eric. You have a great night, man.
You too.
I think we're going to bring in our last interview of the day, and that's race winner James Shiflett after a great performance. James, Kyle
guys.
in the booth. You got me.
Yeah, I got you.
James, oh my goodness. We were going crazy up in the booth. Me personally, I almost lost my voice when you crossed the line first, but that was an insane finish. How does it feel to be a winner of the Great Lakes Truck Series?
Feels great. Been a while. I mean, I've done this for about 2 years now, I think, and always running the back, just try to stay clean, and just lucked out.
We were watching you at the end, and we're like, maybe James Shiflett can steal this from everybody. And then when Madalena started to sputter coming through the tri-oval, did you see that as your opportunity? Did you see him begin to physically slow down, and that was your opportunity?
Yeah, I thought he had damage, but I guess he ran out of gas and he decided to block Eric, and I had enough speed to pass both of them barely. Sucks for Eric, but it's
Barely able to sneak by. That was, it was very close. Yeah, he was sputtering out of gas. His claim was around 100 feet from the line. He started to sputter and started to run out of gas and threw his block on Eric Kepf, and we were able to get across the line first, and that was an intense moment. But I was just talking to your teammate Eric about gas, and were you one of those guys that was really focused on gas there at the end of the race, making sure you can make it?
Well, I knew I was good because earlier I went 2 laps down on a pit cycle trying to help RJ, and I run out of gas myself, and I had to pit and got my laps back, and I knew I was good.
Well, very an intense and an exciting first victory for you. But how did your overall day go for you? Because you weren't really up at the front pretty much the whole day up until the very end. How was your day? I know most of the race you were a lap down.
Yeah, I mean, normal strategy, stay in the back, and usually a pit stop or something gets me put behind in the draft. And like I said, with the cautions come out, got my laps back, and everybody had damage, so it was kind of, I didn't there till the last lap.
I'm noticing the sponsorship on your truck. Is the plan tonight to drink a bunch of Miller Lite? Because that would be my plan.
It's Miller time, but not too many. I got to work tomorrow.
Well, we appreciate you talking to us, James. Is there anybody you have to thank or any sponsors you have to thank for getting you to this moment in victory lane?
Eric Kep and RJ Williams and Spectrum Racing. SP2.
Heard it here first. SP2 able to get to victory lane. Once again, congratulations on your victory, James, and go celebrate, man, and hopefully you can make it to work tomorrow.
Thank you, sir, and hopefully I can talk to y'all again.
I hope to too.
All right. Take care.
All right, bye. That was James Shiflett, driver of the number 28, able to get that first elusive victory, and that's a big moment for him, and not just a big moment for him, but a big moment for that race team of Spectrum, able to see one of their lesser drivers racing on their second division team able to get that victory. That's very big for a big organization to have their up and coming drivers have success.
No, absolutely. It's basically the mentor being able to see that the person that they're trying to help, that the results are taking, all that hard work, all of that mentoring is actually now starting to bear fruit. You heard it there from Shiflett. He's been trying this for 2 years now, trying to find victory lane. It's what we love about super speedway racing, drivers that have long careers that are still having that elusive brass ring in front of them, finally being able to capture it at a track like this. I mean, there's nothing better. That's why we love coming to Daytona, love coming to Talladega, because they're those type of wild card races.
You see the race results on your screen. Of course, James Shiflett snags the victory. Eric Kep and Hunter Madalinas, your top 3. Heller and Potter able to come back for a top 5. Henderson, Henry, Fitzgerald, Fosnow, and Bob Kenny round out your top 10. Onto the next slide of drivers here today. You got Hunter Brittle, who ran up at the front a good amount of the day, along with Sims and Mons coming home in the 13th spot. Mons had that contact with Heller. Must have gotten some sort of penalty to put him back in that 13th spot. You have Baker, Kingcott, Jump, a lot of notable drivers back here who ran at the front most of the day. Sensi rounds out your top 20. Onto the next slide of drivers here, 21st through 30th. You have Shane Niswanger finishing 21st. Rodriguez back here. Ashton Lawson, the former champ, back here in 24th. RJ Williams back here. Jordan Gonzalez and Tyler McClellan, who seemed like they had a lot of speed, finishing outside the top 25. Disappointing days for them. And then on to the final slide of drivers for today's race in the Patti Engineering 200. You have Aiden DuPont, DJ Stagner, Josh Cottle, and Lewis Woodall being our lowest finishing playoff driver after his incident on the back straightaway early. Going to be really tough for a driver like Cottle or Woodall to make up some points after this event, after finishing so far back in the pack, Seth.
Yeah, I'm only seeing about 3 or 4 playoff contenders that finished out the evening with solid runs, so it's going to make things very interesting around that cut line for the 8th position on up, with Watkins Glen and Kentucky on the horizon. We know that there's going to be quite a few of our playoff drivers we'll see up at the front next week. Henry Madalinas, Heller, Cottle. Those drivers, RJ Williams, always seem to be really good at the rights and lefts. We'll see if they're going to be able to mount some comebacks. Some of them with a good performance tonight, but some of them looking to gain back the points that they lost.
See what these drivers can do next week as we head to the Glen. Left turns and right turns at Watkins Glen International. Should be a lot of fun next week, Seth. And then we got Kentucky finishing out the round. It should be an exciting round as we get out of Talladega with some of these drivers having hurt feelings here, Seth.
A little bit of something for everybody's racing style, right? You got the super speedway racers here tonight, road course racers get next week, and the drivers that just like those technical mile and a halves get Kentucky for the elimination race.
We're going to head out for the evening. I would like to thank all of you for tuning in to tonight's broadcast of the Great Lakes Truck Series. You see that number 28 on the top of the pylon. James Shiflett gets the job done here at Talladega Super Speedway, getting his first career victory in Great Lakes competition. Good for him. Congratulations to the 28 team. And we will see you next week at Watkins Glen. Same place, same time, right here on the Flatout Racing Network. Once again, thank you all for tuning in and have a fantastic night.
This broadcast is the copyrighted work of Flatout Racing Network and may not be rebroadcast, retranslated, or used in any form without the express written consent of Flatout Racing Network and iRacing.com Motorsports Simulations. Flatout Racing Network would like to thank